Gentleman yields. The gentleman from California, Mr. Garcia, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses. Counterterrorism, of course, is critical to the Department of Homeland Security. It's important, I know, to everybody that's here. And we know that border security is an important part of that tool. Our security professionals are hard at work, which we have seen, of course, in recent arrests, and our committee should also support that work. I also know that we shouldn't distort national security threats to score political points. Hopefully no one is interested in that. But there's so many other types of extremism and other types of major security threats we should be focused on, whether it's mass shootings, domestic extremism, which should be looked at by this committee. We often, over and over again, including in this committee, continue to demonize immigrants, continue to somehow put all of our criminal issues on the backs of immigrants, folks like my family, folks like myself. And we should be very clear about actually what's happening in this country and actually looking at the data as it relates to immigrants and crime. And if we're being honest with each other, we could see that immigrants are contributing to this country and not causing these kinds of exaggerations that my colleagues here on this committee are saying. I want to start with an important data point over here, if I can just share this really quick. So, Mr. Nowrasteh, here we have a chart of the annual homicide rate going back for the last few decades. You can see it's pretty clear. This is all the way from the 1960s all the way till today. Now, looking at this, and this is data collected by police departments and the FBI and others, do you agree that the country is safer today as it relates to homicides than in the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to point out the immigrant population is substantially higher today, too.
Thank you. And I want to point out that if you look at this, clearly, we are safer today than we have ever been over the last few decades. I do want to point out, though, in the year 2020, we do see a dramatic spike. Do you see the spike there over here, right around the year 2020?
Yes.
Great. And who was actually the president in 2020?
Donald Trump was the president of the United States in 2020.
So the largest spike that we see in actual homicides over the last few decades is a year that Donald Trump was actually the president of the United States. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it true that under Donald Trump, murder rates surged by 30% to the highest rate since the late 90s?
There was a very large surge in the last year of his administration.
Right, so here we have crime rates are going down, homicide rates are up here in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They start to decrease, and then we see the one spike when Donald Trump was president. Then, of course, as we go into 2021, who then got elected president then?
Joe Biden was elected.
And since that time, if you look at this chart, is violent crime starting then to decrease or increase once Joe Biden became the president?
It started to decrease from the elevated level that it was.
Thank you. So it's important to note here that now crime is beginning to decrease. Now, the Major City Chiefs Association, which represents the 60 major city police departments in America, including Long Beach, where I was mayor, honored to have served and to help lead. We had over 700 police officers, which an incredible group of men and women. Through this period of time in 2024 and 2023, we have actually seen a drop in murders and killings, not just back home in California, but across the country. So as we can see in this chart, homicides have plummeted, and we know they continue to plummet. I think it's important that we take the word of our police officers and their data, what they're presenting, over what Donald Trump is saying. And I want to show you one other chart, which also is important. Now, again, sir, is it true that the incarceration rate for both documented and even undocumented immigrants is far below the rate for native-born citizen Americans?
Yes, it is.
So today, immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than all other U.S.-born individuals. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, I only say this because, as you can see, native-born Americans are actually committing crimes and then going to jail at a higher rate than the immigrant population. And I say that not because we should want folks in jail. Everyone should be accountable to the law. But this idea that immigrants are somehow doing or causing more crime or filling up our prisons more or committing and creating more chaos across this country is actually not true when you look at the data. And so I think it's very important that we call out the lies and the untruths that are happening from folks that are running for president, and quite frankly, also from folks that are on this committee. We know that undocumented people people that are here, that are legal immigrants, are actually committing less crime when you look at the total number. And so I wanted to make those points and make sure that we're talking about facts. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Ms. Green.